In a speech last week, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh estimated that our exports, defence exports that is, would touch 50,000 crore rupees a year by fiscal year 28-29. That gives rise to the question, where are we now and what do we need to get to the target? Let's find out. Hello and welcome back to Business Matters at the Hindu with me, K. Bharat Kumar. If you've read a bit about wars, you may have noticed that countries with significant manufacturing basis and capability also tend to be able to produce arms and weaponry at a scale. Think Russia, Germany, Japan, the US. In fact, right now, there's some nice little dynamics playing out in the trade war between Europe and China, and that gives the context to what we're talking about right now. As writer Noah Smith noted in a recent blog, China is subsidizing the production of electrical vehicles in this case, and Europe is subsidizing the consumption of such vehicles. So he argues that basic economics will tell us that all the manufacturing investment could potentially move to China because it's cheaper to make in China and the cost is quite less for consumers in Europe. So why doesn't Europe like it one bit? There are several reasons, but national security is a key reason. If US domestic politics means that it abandons the Ukrainian cause in Ukraine's war with Russia, then that burden could well fall upon Europe. And at some point, if Putin of Russia also tends to cast his eye over the Baltics and Poland, then Europe could feel threatened. If and when that happens, Europe could potentially have to match Russia's war production. As we noted at the beginning, a thriving domestic industry would give a country the flexibility to use production lines and ramp up on defense output as and when needed. The fear is that if European auto industry's manufacturing bases move to China, it would be truly handicapped in times of war. You're probably all wondering why this preamble about trade wars between China and Europe, national security and war production and so on. Here's why. When it comes to manufacturing might that will actually help spur defense exports for India, our country really isn't up there yet, even compared with smaller rivals such as South Korea. In fact, the manufacturing industry, of which auto industry is only a part, for India does not yet account for 25% of gross value added or GVA. And this has been an aspirational target for multiple governments in recent years. In fact, in a couple of episodes of Business Matters ago, we noted that it has actually fallen below 15% in recent times. It has been hovering above that mark before that. South Korea accounted for 2.4% of global defense exports in the 5-year period ended 2022. This compares with 1.3% in the previous 5 years, and this is a significant jump. This data comes from SIPRI, or Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. And if you want to know how South Korea really cracked this puzzle, it's very interesting. A lot of information on the web. We hope to be able to come back to it later because it's a whole different conversation. As for India, India actually figured in recent times in the top 25 list of global defense exporting countries. But in the latest set of rankings, it's fallen out of that list. Many reasons, primarily attributed to fluctuating demands in global arms trade during COVID and post-COVID years. But even when we did figure in the top 25, we have probably accounted for about 0.2% of global defense exports. But let not percentage figures allow you to dim the picture for India. In absolute terms, our exports have jumped 10 times to 16,000 crore rupees for the fiscal year ended 2023 compared to 16-17. So what has been spurring these defense exports in recent times? And are we all set to be able to achieve this 50,000 crore rupee target in defense exports in 5 years' time? If not, what do we need to do? So we spoke to Dalip Singh, Deputy Editor at Businessline. He writes on defense and internal security. He, of course, talked about some gaps that are there that need to be filled from a policy perspective, some reforms that are needed, and a holistic development of even ports that can handle ammunition and weaponry. But he also spoke of the need to develop a domestic base. After all, if you have a strong domestic base and a well-expanded one, that could give you the scale that will help lower costs. And lower costs for exports means a better market for you. Let's listen to him. Hello Dalip, thank you for sparing time for us today. Welcome to Business Matters. India has long been known as an arms importer. We still are a significant arms importer, but in recent times our exports have been picking up. What has helped trigger this trend?
You're right, Bharat. The defense exports have gone up, and it has multiplied, say, 10 times. If we look at the statistics, in 2016-17, it was 1,500 crore, and in the 22-23 it went up to 16,000 crore. And to the countries we are exporting, there are 85 of them, and right from immediate neighborhood like Sri Lanka, Maldives, Nepal, uh, Myanmar, to US, in Europe, France, Poland, all the way to Africa. So these are the wide countries we are exporting, and there are hundred companies which are involved in exports, from defense PSUs to private companies, and and the items are we are exporting artillery guns, we are exporting avionics, we are exporting uh, ALH, which is advanced light helicopter, Dornier aircraft, surveillance systems, then and radar parts, ammunitions. So we are also exporting to ammunitions to US. So these are the countries I can think of on exports.
Among the equipment that we've been exporting recently, any that we've indigenously developed because of innovation, or are we just doing more of the same, except that the external market has opened up and we are able to sell more, or something has changed on the policy front?
The entrepreneurial skills, Indians are basically they are innovative. We are a knowledge based society, and that that is getting reflected uh, in in the kind of products we are able to do right now because of the policy push from the government. uh, there are increasing startups which have come up in defense sector. Young minds, they are coming up, like, for instance, unmanned systems. The we have no startups and the companies which are coming up with maritime version of unmanned systems. So there is a ecosystem which is emerging on innovations. Though it's at the initial level, there are different issues we can talk about later, perhaps. But yes, I would say we are doing it, especially on land systems, like artillery guns with missiles. If you might have seen BrahMos, we exported to Philippines. There are other countries which have shown interest. So BrahMos is one of the best cruise supersonic missile is in its category. We now the extended version of BrahMos, which can fire to a distance between, say, 400 to 500 kilometers. That is already in place. Successful tests have happened. Shipbuilding is another. I think easily we have 2 years down the line. I think India came up with its own indigenously built aircraft carrier. So shipbuilding is another. I think we have MRO facilities now. US military, they are sending their ships for repair at the L&T facility near Chennai.
What does the government need to do? Any fixes to policy, any new policies that can actually help open up a whole new market for us?
On the reforms, I would say the first thing which Government of India, or especially Ministry of Defense, can look into is our procurement processes. The procurement processes still continue to is still very complex. When I say complex, in the sense, we cannot uh, any procurement for large military systems or equipment, it takes minimum 7 years, and that long time period you cannot afford in today's era, where technology's shelf life in modern warfare is not even that. So by the time you induct a weapon system, but that technology has already lost its relevance. And it's not that we cannot reduce this whole. We have seen post Galwan, there were emergency procurement processes which were brought in to expedite mm, induction to fill our capability gaps. So that happened. Why cannot that emergency procurement process can be made as the process of procurement by Indian Army, Navy, and the Air Force? So that's one thing. B, I think there has to be a whole of India approach to defense sector if we really are aspiring to be among top five, say when in 1947 when India turned 100. So, and when I say whole of the nation approach, I mean that you also have to bring your academia, your universities, your curriculum, uh, your industry. So there has to be everything has to converge.
Given the large number of graduates that come out of colleges in India, should the defense forces be actively involved in the advice of curriculum? Because if we need to go beyond basic mechanical engineers or metallurgists, that will actually help our defense exports eventually. This is something that may need to be done. And as a corollary to that question, should the defense forces be allowed to set up their own schools, basic engineering schools, schools of higher education, or for innovation? Because it does that with AFMC Pune for the medical sciences.
There are three things to it. You need to relook at the curriculum so that even in terms of, say, in mechanical engineering, for example, or in metallurgy, the biggest problem what people from the industry tell me, that we are getting to we have hands or we have brains for AI, okay, and for technology, but we are not getting people who are good at metallurgy. And unless until you have good metallurgy, you won't be able to produce the kind of no big weapon systems which India needs, or for that matter, the world is looking at. So that when I say curriculum, I the I think human resource ministry has to look into this aspect. There has to be coming together of different ministries also on this. So that is one. The other thing is, I think there is a need for lateral interaction between the industry and the academia. But unless until the problems no statement the industry throws to the students or to the academia, how do you think you'll have a kind of people the nation wants for next generation cutting edge technology? What I feel again is lacking is that there is no policy push. Unless until you have a policy, only a policy will drive. For instance, otherwise, now there are to get anything done for it's so difficult for the stakeholders to run around and get things. Why can't in today's world, why can't there be a single window to do that? For instance, there was one of the no ammunition manufacturing uh, official was telling me from the defense PSU that they have to export ammunitions, and for that you have to have ports that are ammunition friendly. We don't even we there are only so there is only there are hardly one or two.
What do we mean when we say that ports, for example, should be ready, defense ready, to be able to help exports? Like if you want to export ammunition, why can't generic ports be used?
So storage is one, and handling is another. Training of the manpower is third. So these are no couple of issues.
What does India need to do to begin complying with regulatory norms for the US and Europe so that we can start exporting significantly to those regions?
India is already negotiating with US basically to get access to their market. There are there are two sort of regulations on which negotiations are happening. One is SOSA, which is Security of Supply Agreement, and what I hear is this might happen soon. And if that happens, then Department of Defense of US will have to no take priority delivery from Indian companies for their production. So this is one. There is another reciprocal defense procurement agreement, RDP. So that also, these web mechanisms basically will strengthen the defense cooperation between the two countries. And the, now there's a feeling within the Indian defense industry that India needs to ensure that there is a level playing field between the two countries. As of now, they feel that Americans are sort of running away with the cake, and we Indians uh, are not getting that kind of space which they should be.
Dalip, in your recent podcast, the guest did mention a couple of points. One, the lack of a level playing field between private and public players for manufacturing of defense equipment. The other is that there was a certain portion of R&D that is said to be reserved for private players, but there's nothing much that has happened on that front. What exactly is transpiring now?
Another thing where the private industry has a strong view. Obviously, they don't come out on it, but L&T's JD Patil, mm, when I asked him this question, that this whole issue emerged from the fact that a defense secretary, he gave a interview and he said the ministry will give no 45% of the contract to private to players. And then I asked him why should there be a restrictions or on giving orders. And he agreed to that. And what an interesting statistics he gave. He said the in exports 80% of it is being done by private industry. So and still the contracts are being regulated and being fed into no defense PSUs. One can understand that government is hand holding, but there has to be what private industry players say, that there has to be a point where the competition should drive the market rather than the no government being biased and giving it major contracts only to the PSUs. If you look at the administrative architecture of the Ministry of Defense, you'll find the Defense Secretary is also responsible for the performance of PSUs, defense PSUs. Uh, so there's a conflict of interest in, if you look at it. Though uh, the bidding the contracts are done through bidding, and it's the whole system is transparent, but somewhere down the line, I think there is a conflict of interest, and that shows in the kind of contracts which are no sort of given to PSUs. There's another area which the government has to look into seriously, is spending on R&D, no research and development. And though it's been 2 years that government of India in the budget had announced that 25% of the budget would go for R&D, and that money will be also available to the private sector. But it has not happened in the last 2 years. That's one major concern area that we need to increase spending on R&D. As of now, DRDO is the organization which has been doing the research and innovation besides the private and the startups.
So that's what it would take for us to fire on all cylinders when it comes to defense exports. As we wind down this episode, as always, we have a nugget of information for you from history. Did you know that it was in 1775 that Britain established the Board of Ordnance in Fort William, Kolkata? This marks the official beginning of the Army Ordnance in India. In 1787, a gunpowder factory was set up at Ishapur, which started production from 1791. In 1801, a gun carriage agency at Kosipur, Calcutta, was set up. Here's a quiz question for this week. If you look at the top 10 defense exporting nations, how much of the global defense exports, in terms of value, do they all account for put together? We're looking for answers that come from the SIPRI database for the 5 years ended 2022. And here's the answer to last week's question, which was, what was the interest rate offered by the first savings bank account offered by the government in 1833-34? The answer is, it was 4% on a rupees 500 deposit. So that's all we have for you now. Till we meet again, have a lovely time ahead. But do not forget to like, share and subscribe before you go away. See you soon.